Activate Weird Science Fair. Run experiment, growing gummy bears.
Hi everybody, my name's Andrew and I'm one of the environmental educators here at Clay Pit Pond State Park Preserve. In today's Weird Science Fair experiment, we're going to be making gummy bears grow. Let's talk about the supplies you're going to need to gather before we get started. First, you'll need some small cups or bowls, some gummy bears, you're going to need some salt, a spoon or other stirring utensil, and 2 cups of water. Alright, once you get that, we're ready to go. So let's get started. Okay, to start our experiment, we're going to create labels first. We have our 3 cups or bowls, and each one's going to have something different inside them. So we're going to create a label so we don't get them mixed up, especially the 2 that are going to have liquids. So one, you can label a W or a freshwater. This is going to be our freshwater cup. One, you can put an S or write saltwater. This is going to be the one we have salt water in. And lastly, you could put a C or control. This is going to be our control cup. A control is something scientists use to test what would have happened if they didn't do their experiment. So in our case, we're looking at whether our salt or fresh water make our gummy bears grow more or less. So for our control, we're just going to put gummy bears in a cup and leave them there the same length of time we have our gummy bears in the other 2 liquids. Once you have yours labeled, we're going to go ahead and put 2 gummy bears in each cup. Alright, now that we have our gummy bears in our cup, we can set our control off to the side and our other 2 cups off to the side. And grab one of your cups. This should be warm water. I already heated mine, but if yours isn't warm, you can go ahead and stick it in the microwave for a little bit. We don't want it boiling, but we want it warm. Next, we're going to start stirring in salt. We want to add some slowly and stir until salt stops dissolving in the water and flows to the bottom. So you can add a little bit and stir it up and see what level you're at. Alright, so all my salt dissolved, so I'm going to add some more. Alright, so I have a little bit of salt left in the bottom, and that's where we're going to stop. But since this is warm water, and we do not want warm water, we want room temperature water, I'm going to go and put it in the freezer for about 20 minutes or so, until it gets around room temperature. I'll see you guys then. Okay, my water's cooled down to room temperature, so I'm going to add them into the respective cups. So I'm going to pour our salt water in our S cup. I'm going to fill it so it's about 2/3 full. Then I'm going to do the same thing with our freshwater cup. And then we're going to put nothing in our control cup. Now I'm going to set these cups off to the side for about 8 to 12 hours. It might be best to let them sit overnight if that works for your schedule. I'll see you then though to go over the results. Okay, I hope you were able to bear the wait because it's been about 12 hours now and we can look at the results. So I'm going to start with by taking one of my control gummy bears out and put it on this plate here. So as you can see, it's a fairly hard and normal sized gummy bear. Let's start with the salt water first. I'm going to grab one of my salt waters out of the cup. Carefully trying not to squeeze it too much because we don't want to damage the results. And we'll put it on the plate next to our control. Alright, there we go. So it's definitely a little bit bigger and it's definitely a little squishier to my feel. But let's compare it to the freshwater one. Wow, now look at this. That one's a lot bigger. So the freshwater gummy bear almost tripled in size of the original gummy bear. That's pretty big. Now, I wonder why this happened. You can go ahead and eat your gummy bears. I wouldn't suggest eating the salt one though. It's going to be very salty. And we'll be back in a second to talk about why this happened. So, the gummy bears in this experiment grew because of something called osmosis. Osmosis is the principle where water wants to go where there's less water. So, when you put a gummy bear, which is gelatin and sugar, into a cup of fresh water, there's a lot more water concentrated in the liquid around it than inside the gummy bear. So, the water goes into the gummy bear, trying to reach what's called equilibrium. This is when there's an equal amount of water in the gummy bear compared to outside the gummy bear. So, if we left it in the cup long enough, it would reach this state of equilibrium. But when we're talking about the salt water, there's already a lot smaller concentration of water in the salt water around the gummy bear than in the gummy bear. so less water has an incentive to go into the gummy bear. Let's think of it like a crowded room. If you're in a crowded room full of people, and a completely empty room opens up you can go into, probably about half the people go in there, creating an equilibrium between the amount of people in each room. But if another room opens up and it already has a few people in there, less people are going to want to go into that room to make an equilibrium of about the same number of people in each room. That's what osmosis does, trying to reach an equilibrium of the amount of concentration of water in each area. Hey, did you know? Animals kind of act the same way as the water did in this experiment. Animals compete for shelter and food and water in their environment. So if there's a bunch of animals in one spot, they don't like that. So they try to spread out equally across the landscape so they don't have to compete with each other as much. Well, I hope you enjoyed this weird science fair experiment. Have a good day. See ya.